Hey Savvy people, it's SavvyNik here, and today I'll continue with episode 11 in the C++ tutorial for beginners. In this episode, we'll be covering for loops. So the syntax for a for loop goes something like this. You type for, followed by an open and closed parenthesis, and inside this open and closed parenthesis we'll put a few things, but before we do that, we'll go ahead and put some curly braces here, and this is where our statements will go that get executed. So we'll put statements here. And up here in the for loop, there are three things that it supports inside these parentheses, which we'll need to go ahead and fill in so our for loop works. The first thing is the initialized values, if you have any, followed by a semicolon, then we'll do a space. In the second place, we need our condition, followed by another semicolon, and finally, in the third place, we can increment or decrement, or really just make some sort of an update inside of our for loop here. So I'm just going to say this is where we do our updating. So now we have the syntax of a for loop stubbed out here. So let's go ahead and create one. Make sure to support the channel by subscribing below and hitting the notification bell for more Linux and programming videos. So for loops are really used to execute a block of statements a specific amount of times based on some sort of a condition in here. For example, maybe you want to print out all the numbers between 0 and 100. Well, that could take a lot of time if you were just using an object like cout to print out to the screen, but with the for loop, it's really just one statement inside of the loop, which gets executed 101 times before stopping the loop. In our example, we'll do something similar to that, so we'll write out for. And then as far as the initialized values, I do want to initialize one value, and it's going to be called I, and it's of data type int. So it's an integer, and I'm going to initialize it to something, so I'm going to set it equal to 0, and put my first semicolon here. So all I'm doing in here, the for loop allows us to, again, create initialized values, and I'm creating one initialized value equal to 0, that's of a type int. Next, I get to specify a condition, as mentioned above. So my condition here, we can use the relational operator and say I less than some number, so let's just say 10, and then put another semicolon. So what this condition is checking is making sure that I is always less than 10. So if I was 10, that means it's the same as 10, therefore it's not true. So this is the condition that we're checking inside, and then here we get to put our updating. So for this one, in order to count from 0 to, let's say, 9, we could use the increment operator, so we do I plus plus. That just means increment I by 1. And with the for loop, this will allow us to increment this operator a total of 10 times, but since we started at 0, we're going to be printing out 0 through 9. Alright, so we'll put our curly braces at the end here, and then we can put our statements in between those curly braces. So the statement I want, I'm going to use cout to print something out to the user in the console, and I'll just print out the number of the current iteration of the for loop. And then I'll just put a space between those numbers so we can tell them apart more easily. And that's it. So let's run this for loop real quick and then go through it. Let me get rid of this so things can compile properly. And I'll put my return 0 back in. And let's go ahead and compile things. Got my terminal opened up. Then I'll go ahead and compile and then run the program. And we can see here on the left hand side we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 spit out to us in the console. So we've successfully created and executed our very first for loop. Congratulations. And if you went ahead and made it this far, please hit the like button. It really does help me out. So let's go back and talk about the for loop some more. So what happened here? This for loop allowed us to go ahead and increment I by 1 every single time through the loop, and then we displayed I to the user. I started at 0, and it went until it was equal to 10, because 10 is not less than 10, it's equal to 10, and that's where the for loop stopped. That's really it for the for loop. It's fairly simple to use, but let's go ahead and make this even smarter. So what we can do, instead of specifically putting in a number here in the for loop, what we can do is we can ask the user for a number. Let's go ahead and specify that number as an integer type and call it num, followed by asking the user for the number, and we'll place it into num from the console. And let's just make sure we tell the user, please enter in a number. And I'll put an end line here in order to make things look a little better, as well as down here I'll exchange this for an end line as well, just to clean things up. And all that does is put the console on a new line every single time it prints something out. And now the only thing I want to exchange in here is this. So I'm going to put num, and let's say I wanted to go ahead and start from 1 instead of 0. I can just change my I to 1, And then let's put an equal sign here so it's less than or equal to the number. So now we can expect that we'll go between 1 in some number that the user supplies, and we'll keep incrementing this for loop and printing out I every single time we increment through the loop. The reason some people like to use I in loops is it could stand for index, and it's just a shorthand way to write it out. It's easy to use and refer to, but you can use whatever you want instead if something else makes more sense to you. It doesn't have to be I. So let's go ahead, save this and run it. I'm going to compile my program and I'm going to run it. Now it says please enter a number. So I'll go ahead and type in 10 like we had before. This time we should expect 1 through 10, and we sure got it. So 1, then we have our new line 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But now our program is a little more intelligent, and it actually asks the user for a number and uses the for loop in its advantage to go ahead and print out all the numbers that previously led up to the number that they specified. So we could have just as well put in 100, and we would have gotten a bunch of numbers here in our terminal. As you can tell, 1 through 100. Continuing on here, we'll give one more example where we can make our program do something useful for us using a for loop. So I'll go ahead and erase this. And I also want to mention that for loops are another form of flow control and can help shorten iterative code by a significant amount, and can be used for such things as filling up arrays, as well as processing arrays, which we'll be talking about in the future. There are plenty of other applications, but know that there are also different types of loops, which we'll be talking about later. And just understand that for loops are great when you have a specific amount of iterations to go through, meaning you already know how many times you want to execute the code in a for loop. All right, so let's write a second form of a for loop. This time we'll ask the user for an integer, x, and we'll make another one called sum. This time we'll do our for loop again. We'll create an initialized value. We'll call it int I, and we'll set it equal to 0, followed by I less than or equal to x, another semicolon. So this is our condition. We're checking if the number I, which is the iterator, is less than or equal to the number supplied by the user. And then we're going to increment I by 1 every single time through the loop. And now we can take advantage of the sum variable, which we defined. We'll do sum plus equals I. Remember that this just means sum equal to the sum plus I. I'll also make sure to initialize the sum to 0 up top. And finally, I'll ask the user for a number x. And at the end, I'll go ahead and supply the sum of all numbers leading up to the number that's specified by the user, which is my sum. So for example, if the user supplied 5, you'd get 5 plus 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1, but it'd actually go in the opposite fashion. So it would really start out with 0, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and add those all up together and then display it to the user. I'll also put an end line here. So let's go ahead and give this a shot. And before I give it a shot, I need to go ahead and change these around. I accidentally put the wrong type of angle brackets there. If I want something from the console, I need to put it in to X. So just need to make that change. And now I'll go ahead and compile things and run it. All right, I'm going to compile. And then we'll run the for loop application again. And now we're waiting to go ahead and supply a number. So let's just start with 5. And we got 15. So is 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 equal to 15? Yes, it is. That checks out. So we'll do it one more time. And if we run the for loop, and this time I'll just do 10. So we should be expecting 55 from this number, and we sure get it. So we went ahead and created another program by using another for loop. And with this, we can see how powerful a for loop can be. Could you imagine summing up all the numbers without a for loop here in this situation? It would make the program a complete mess really quick. Well, that's about it. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please make sure to post them in the comments section below. Also, make sure to subscribe for future videos and make sure to like the video. Catch me in a great community on Discord, and I'll catch you in another video. Thanks for watching.